Hello everybody, hello pen friends. My name is Chris and I'm back to do an exciting video, or at least it's exciting to me because today I received the pen that was my great uncle's, my grandfather's brother's, and it's just beautiful and it's wonderful. My brother was holding it, taking care of it for my mom, and the decision was made that I could have this pen and it'll stay in the family. As you can see, it's a Sheaffer, and I've been doing some research. I'm really excited, so pardon me if my words are just jamming up here, but I believe it's a Sheaffer balance, with that ebonized pearl, and it's got his name on it, Roscoe G. Stoddard. And in examining this pen, the things that I did find out, and keep in mind it just came in the mail today, so I'm really cart before the horse here, is that it is a lifetime pen. It does have that little white dot on the cap, and it has a serial number, which was a little bit hard to read, but I got it, and I got it copied down. And it has a fine nib. Not sure if that's really working there to show you. It's got a little ink on it because I'll tell you about that. And then it is a vacuum filler. This unscrews. I'm not going to do it right now because I actually have been writing with this pen. But and the little plunger comes out, and then you stick it in the ink and push it in. But I'll explain a little bit more about my experience with inking this pen up, because it came to me real clean, and I do believe that it was cleaned by my grandfather and not used. And I believe that because of the special circumstances, I'm not even sure anybody ever wrote with this except for my uncle, and very limited, because he did die very young in an airplane crash. He was piloting a small aircraft when it went down. And so this was the pen, or this is the pen. I'm so excited. I'm not going to make any sense. I'm sure this will be the first video. Maybe later I'll be able to calm down and go over some of the facts better. And then this is the pencil that came with it. It's just incredibly shiny, and I've got a little bit of natural light today, so you may be able to see. Of course, I've got reading glasses and this gizmo to hold my camera, but it was all leaded up, and I've written with that, of course. And so this is what I decided. I decided it looked so clean. You can actually see right in, and I don't know if you'll be able to, but it's translucent. It almost looks amber right here. It's not so in the feed section. That's not see-through. But right here, I could see in really well, and I could see that plunger move up and down when I played with it, very carefully, because I was really nervous at first. And so I thought about, well, what ink am I going to use? And I decided I didn't want to put my Noodler's Heart of Darkness in there, because it might be a little extreme. So I decided on the Diamine Oxford Blue, and I just decided to go ahead and try it. And it worked, but I didn't get a whole lot of ink in there, and I got a little nervous, so I cleaned off the pen and came to my desk and wrote with it. And I'll show you what happened. Let's see. What happened was it wrote great, and I wrote in my Rhodia pen journal. I do notice that at first, maybe I didn't wipe it off enough, because at first it was a little darker, but then I got a nice long writing capability. It started to fade a little bit down here, and I re-dipped it. And then, let's see, I wrote on some Tomo River paper just for the heck of it. Now, I found it to be a very fine nib, like almost a Pilot Metropolitan Medium, which to me is very fine as well, or somewhere even a little bit finer than that. But I love how it writes. And I sort of freaked out and thought, well, maybe I shouldn't have inked it up, but I had no problems with it writing. It's just that it didn't fill the barrel. It only came a little ways, but that's fine. It could be operator error. I mean, here I am, I don't know anything, and I'm, I've just barely watched a few videos, and I'm all excited about it and everything. But then I took and I wrote in my gratitude journal with it. That's when I found out how much I appreciate a fine nib, because it worked really well. This is a Leuchtturm, the smaller A6, I think, is the size. It's the pocket size. And if I can just find, yeah, right here. So on my second dip, I wrote, sounds really funny, I wrote some of my gratitudes for today, and it was perfect for that. And I thought how I could do that for the rest of my life. You know, I could dip that pen just like I do with my my actual Serendipity dip pen, because what I noticed was the feed on this pen looks almost identical to that hybrid dip pen that I have. And I thought, well, gosh, you know, then all I'd need to do is rinse it off, make sure that I don't let the ink dry on there. But other than that, if I'm using it every day, you know, and that's my point. That's what I really want to do, is I want to use it. He didn't get to use it, you know, because as it turns out, I thought he was 25 when he died, but I compared the newspaper article, which said he was 25, to his actual death certificate, and he had just turned 24. He was 24, 0 months, 10 days when he had this accident. And I'm guessing this pen was probably, you know, in 1935 maybe. That's just a wild guess based on, you know, some of the things that I've seen in videos and research about these pens. Okay, so I knew I was going to be all over the place. I showed you in another video his diary, the one that I have. I know there's another one, but, and he had, this is another fun fact, he had written Roscoe George Stoddard, and I was real confused about that, because it was coming up in my grandmother's writing. I had papers that she had given me, Roscoe Glenn, which was my father's middle name. And so I thought maybe she was right and everything else was wrong. But I found so many resources, and really in his own handwriting too, and on the death certificate and somewhere else. So I found it in several different places. But that's what makes me so excited about this pen set, is that it's, you know, it's part of our family history, and his death at such a young age was so tragic. He was so young. He was 24, and my grandfather was just about 3 years younger, because I noticed here, and I think we can pretty well count on this, I've got my grandfather's birthday more than one place. He wasn't the oldest. Roscoe, the owner of this pen, was the middle child in my grandfather's family, and that's my grandfather, Aubrey. And so there was an older sister, and she comes up in his diary constantly. So that was really interesting too. But no matter how you look at it, he didn't have long with this pen. And I think it's really cool that someone like me, who wants to write with it and is now totally into fountain pens again, I was when I was a kid too, you know, has got the opportunity to have this pen. I want to keep it in the family, and there's only one, my nephew is the only one who is carrying the name on. So, you know, maybe he'll have children, maybe he'll want the pen, but it'll stay in the family. So I thought it was neat too. Another little thing that happened, I had just chosen this Leuchtturm, and I stacked them to move them or something, and I noticed how similar size they were, and I thought, oh, that's just really wild how, because I've got a whole stack of my grandfather's too. There's like 5 more, and they're all going to be the same size if I stick with this size for my gratitude journal, which I think I'm going to do. Oh yeah, I found a photo too. This is a photo I took of the store that they owned. Now, of course, this was 1997 when I took the picture. And, you know, they had it back in the 30s and 40s. So this is what it looks like today, you know, refurbished and everything. But the old pictures at the Historical Society, because this was East Charleston, Vermont, Dad took me to the Historical Society, and it all looks the same, except it had a sign, a big metal sign, Stoddard's General Store or something like that, and so of course this is very modern looking, but it's the same building. So I just think that's so cool. I mean, you know, in this day and age, or, you know, that was a long time ago now. It's been 20 years. So anyway, that was something I found. And what else? So that's pretty much what I wanted to do. I wanted to share with you my excitement about the pen. I've got a lot to learn. I've watched a lot of Chris's videos, Chris Rap 52, so that helps a lot. And then I've done some research online, but I've got such a long ways to go on learning about these different kind of pens. But in my mind, I'd never seen these, and I pictured them being pretty darn worn out. But then I told myself, well, it must be because they kept it. I mean, it must have been really sensitive, you know. I would imagine my great-grandfather, his father, hung on to it until it was time to pass it to my grandfather. So I was making kind of a list of what I thought probably, you know, happened. And then it went on to my father. And my father knew my mother was a writer, and she was interested in fountain pens, but she never did have much success. I don't think she had YouTube like I have, you know. And so my brother was holding her things for her, and it came up, and she said she wanted me to have it as long as I would make sure and keep it in the family and make sure it goes back into, you know, to the Stoddard line, and that's wonderful. I mean, my nephew and I will keep in touch, and I've gotten him started with some starter fountain pens, and it could be that it could be that I could get this to actually fill, you know, with some sort of a refurbishing, but in the meantime, it makes a great dip pen. I got that entire page with one dip, so that, you know, that is certainly going to help. It's going to work for letter writing. It's going to work for my gratitude journal, and I'll feel good because I really wanted to write with the pen. This is my only vintage pen. I have mostly an interest in translucent, clear demonstrator fountain pens. That's my primary area that I really love, but I also love some other pens too. So I think I'll do another video later on the story, you know, possibly if there's interest, you know, because it was a really interesting story. The plane was only 4 months old, but it had been flown by my grandfather. It had been flown by other pilots. So it was just a real tragedy, that's all. And one last thing before I go, I want to talk about this little crystal. And I've got my book here. This crystal is sodalite. It's called sodalite. And I love the color. I loved how it kind of coordinated with that book. And I love something else about it too. But in here it says it is a stone of insight, helping one penetrate paradox and contradiction in order to form a new synthesis of thought. It enhances mental powers of analysis, intuition, observation, and creativity, and is stimulating to one's latent genius. Okay, so there's a lot there. But this is something that happened. I'll just tell you this because I think it's kind of cool. I had a photo of a crashed up airplane, which I got. It was hanging on the wall at my dad's house, and I thought that it was the airplane that Roscoe had been in when he got killed. So I went to get it off the wall today, and I got down the photo. Probably should have it with me right now, but it's back up on the wall, and it's not the right airplane. Anyway, what happened was this kind of voice came into my head, or this little intuition thought, and I thought, wait a minute, how can that be the plane? I just read this article again, and it's talking about a nosedive, and that plane doesn't look hurt in that way. It looks really crumpled up. But I thought, I'm not going to go on my video and show something that is totally inaccurate. I may say something about the pens just because I believe something that isn't true, you know, because I don't know enough yet about these vintage pens or, you know, nibs and so forth. So don't quote me on any of that because the year it was made, I don't know. I'm just guessing. Anyway, I got the photo down and I took it out of its packaging and looked at the back, and sure enough, there was my grandfather's writing saying, my plane after the hangar was destroyed in Newport. So it was Roscoe's brother, which is my grandfather, Aubrey's plane. So it's a good thing that that thought came into me that might not be the plane. I don't like to make, you know, preventable mistakes in facts and things, and I like to check facts because sometimes you can be told something and it just, they might be mistaken, but it's interesting how his name is on this pen. And it is obviously an old Sheaffer, you know, set and everything, and the papers were with it, and you could tell I'm excited. You know, hopefully this video will have some some interest to you, but it could be that I'm just carried away here today on all of this. And it had another little paper. It had an envelope in it that you could, it said, packages carrying these wrappers are handled immediately upon receipt. Imagine that, the day and era where you could just, you know, get service like that so easily. I'm sure there's still companies where you can, but that's pretty interesting. So, I guess that's it for today. Other than, oh, somebody will wonder. This is a stone that my father found in a river in Vermont. And he'd given it to my mother, and she gave it to me. And so there's another link. You know, my father's passed away now. And I love having this around. I think it's so cool. I mean, I don't know how it came to be, or, you know, who may have shaped it, or what, but it looks marble and it's neat. I like it. And that one kind of coordinates with my journal. So I am going to continue writing with this pen, and I'm going to try to do everything right as far as keeping it. I don't want to cause any harm to it in any way. And it writes really well. So thank you for viewing. And please, if you haven't already entered to win the Monteverde Monza pen and ink samples and crystal, do so. You could check my other video for that. And I appreciate you so much. Thank you. And I'll see you next video. Bye now.